Today I'll be talking about the two trace elements, manganese and molybdenum. Sources of manganese include whole grain cereals, nuts, and leafy veggies. Digestion absorption, it tends to be greater in females than in males, and they're not really sure why, reasons that are unclear. Probably in terms of transport mechanism, it's a low capacity, high affinity active transport. So active transport mechanism, and it is absorbed in the small intestine. It may be free or bound as manganese to a alpha-2 macroglobulin. We've seen that before. Our friend albumin has showed up again as a transporter, beta globulin or gamma globulin. It's removed in the liver. It may complex with the protein transferrin, and it is cleared rapidly from the blood. It's also found in the mitochondria, and it's not readily oxidized in tissues. Functions: enzyme activator. It's another metalloenzyme, as copper was. Bone, cartilage, and connective tissue synthesis it plays a role in. Urea synthesis, antioxidant role, amino acid metabolism. There's a number of roles that manganese for a trace element is pretty important for. It interacts with iron, and there is a question of whether there's interaction with calcium and zinc. Excreted mostly in the bile, a little bit in the urine, and you will see a small loss in sweat and desquamation of the skin. Adequate intake is in milligrams. Men, 2.3 milligrams, women lower at 1.8, and we have varying levels for pregnancy and lactation. Deficiency only when it's deliberately removed from the diet, and I think that would be hard to do. Toxicity will cause liver failure, and neonates on TPN can become toxic if they receive it in excess. And I always recall working in the NICU on TPN formularies, recommending them. You had to be extremely careful because you could easily do great harm to a neonate with incorrect TPN formulation. Tolerable upper intake level is 11 milligrams per day. Assessment of manganese nutriture is done through plasma, serum, or whole blood concentration analysis. And enzyme activity is not a particularly good indicator of manganese levels. Molybdenum is the next trace element, and that is a metal. Sources include legumes, meat, fish, poultry, and grains. It does not appear to require digestion, which is quite unusual and at the same time interesting. Thought to be passively absorbed, may travel in the blood as molybdate, and it's usually found, or it's mostly found, in the liver, kidneys, and bone. It has a number of different mechanisms of action: sulfur metabolism, various roles, and aldehyde oxidase, hydroxylation reactions for a variety of compounds, and it is involved in some metabolism of certain drugs. It interferes with copper. It's excreted mostly in the urine, lesser amounts in the feces, bile, sweat, and hair. 45 micrograms is the RDA. It is slightly higher during pregnancy and lactation. Deficiency, once again, is turning up in incorrectly written TPN formulations. It's relatively non-toxic. You can get gout from high uric. It can contribute to high uric acid levels. Tolerable upper intake is 2 milligrams, and there is really no great way to assess nutriture. And that concludes my lecture.